Hi, shalom everyone. As you can see, I've got the umbrella out at the moment, and well, we got it because it happens to be we're coming into 7th of Cheshvan territory, a very, very key date. It happens to be in the Jewish calendar. So first of all, let's all make sure we have a blessed winter season coming out of autumn very soon in winter. But there's two cycles in the Jewish calendar, as we've learned about before on many occasions, especially in Masechet Ta'anit. We learn all about it. There's a Aviv time period where after Pesach we say a specific blessing of the differences between the Mori Tatal and Mashiv Barach. But then there's another key blessing that we say inside the Shemona Esrei. And on the 7th of Cheshvan we start inciting, we change the text, and it depends on which communities the people are from, between the Sephardim, Ashkenazim, Yemenite, and so on and so forth. For me, as being usually praying, I pray Sephardi with the Sephardi Siddur. We will now be saying a slightly longer tefillah at the moment over here. But other communities, in Ashkenazi communities, something is substituted and something is changed in this specific tefillah inside the Shemona Esrei. But we can learn all about it because now we know that the Jewish calendar is coming in this key date of the 7th of Cheshvan. Very, very critical date. So what is this, and what's the significance about this specific date in itself? Now, praying for rain, we need to pray for it. And why over here? Now, that's first question over here, because this key tefillah, and also when we start to say Mashiv Barach and Morad Goshen, we need rain, the country of Israel does. And usually during the autumn, the winter season, respectively. So Jewish people have been praying for rain, obviously, for millennia, all the whole time. We've seen many stories. If we look at Masechet Ta'anit, once again, a famous story of Choni Amagel, who put himself in a circle and prayed for rain. In the ancient land of Israel, rain was a life and death concern. A good rainy season meant a great harvest and ample drinking water, while, God forbid, if there was a drought, it could even be fatal to livestock and cripple the economy. Remember, in those days, they didn't have systems like they do nowadays, and machinery and stuff like that. When the men of the Great Assembly, the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, they set out, let's just say, to formulate the tefillot, the prayers, they made sure to add a prayer for rain to the daily Amidah, the silent prayer. In fact, rain appears twice inside the Shemona Esrei. The first mention of rain is in the second blessing as one of a string of, let's say, natural, supernatural wonders that Hashem, God, performs. Not least among them, he causes the wind to blow and the rain to fall. Now, here we are praising Hashem, who brings rain, but we are not actually asking for rain over here. It is only later in the blessing requesting a bountiful year that we ask God to bestow dew and rain for blessing upon the face of the earth. Now, in both cases over here, the rain-related phrases said only during the winter, let's say Israel's rainy season, naturally. However, the two prayers follow slightly different schedules over here. That's what we've spoken about before. We begin to say the extra, let's say, the English, as stated in English, he causes the wind to blow and the rain to fall on the festival of Shemini Atzeret, or Simchat Torah, depending which country you are in. This is Israel, Shemini Atzeret, and Simchat Torah is on the same day. But it's actually interesting, this other prayer on Zayin Cheshvan is a few weeks later. And remember, in the diaspora, it's on a different date also. So what's going on over here? So in Israel, the Jewish people of ancient Israel, let's just say, made three shalosh reglim, three pilgrimages to Jerusalem each year. That was for Pesach, the festival of Shavuot, and Sukkot. Now, the official rainy season begins, let's say, on Shemini Atzeret, when the Jewish people were about to start their journey back home after the festival of Sukkot. As much as they wanted the rain, they chose to delay their supplications in the interest of a safer and easy trip back home. Now, that is how the practice of delaying the prayer for rain began. In Israel, the prayer began only 15 days after Shemini Atzeret, hence the 7th of Cheshvan that happens to be. It's about half a month, allowing over here enough time for the Jewish people living near the Euphrates to return home. Very, very interesting. And that's actually very much we learn this in Masechet Ta'anit in a great amount of detail. Over there, which is key to actually see. This custom is followed by the Jews of Israel in Israel today. To say it on 7th of Cheshvan, this prayer we say. Now, outside of Israel, there's more complicated calculations bearing in mind. So the 7th of Cheshvan is very much a key date in Israel, but in the diaspora, for much of our history, the primary Jewish community outside of Israel was in Babylonia, or known as modern-day Iraq, where the terrain is on a lower altitude and Israel's, and they do not need rain, let's say, until much later. Therefore, the sages instituted that Jewish people living outside of Israel should start praying for rain only 60 days after the start of, let's say, halachic autumn, which is known as Tikufat Tishrei. This should be not confused with the autumn equinox, as to say, which is usually September 22nd or 23rd, and we know that very much from our schedules. All us geography people learning from school will know that. But very few Jewish people at this stage in time live in Babylonia. Obviously, the community's dwindled, and the Jews of North America need rain at a different time than Jews of other places, like in Babylon, Iraq, and those places. We all start asking for rain on the date established for the Jews in Babylonia, regardless of when the rains are actually needed in our respective locales. Very interesting enough. And I think Shulchan Aruch Harav in the 117, number 2, will actually speak about that and grapple with that. Which is very, very interesting. So now, so what date is it exactly with regards to, let's say, bringing about the date of what date it comes about? Let's calculate it here. We know that the custom of Jews in diaspora is to start praying for rain 60 days after the onset of Tikufat Tishrei. When is that? Now, in the 3rd century, there was a great Talmudic sage, a Gemara sage, of the name Shmuel, will calculate the length of the solar year as 365 days and 6 hours. Now, since the year is divided into 4 seasons, or Tikufot means a season, it follows that each Tikufa is 91 days and 7.5 hours, naturally, over there. Now, this calculation happens to correspond with a Julian calendar, which was widely used from the year 45 BCE until the introduction of the Gregorian calendar in 1582 Common Era. Now, based on Tikufat Tishrei, which began, I think, on the 24th of September, on the Julian calendar, 60 days into Tikufat Tishrei is November the 22nd. Very, very interesting enough. Now, we have to look at Beit Yosef of the Orach Chaim in chapter 117, where the great Rabbi Yosef Karo gives November the 22nd as the day we start praying for rain, which is very enough talking about the diaspora. Now, there's different calendar issues, let's just say, within regards to this, which is also very, very key. For example, it eventually became clear that the solar year is actually 11 minutes and 14 seconds shorter than previously calculated, and that the calendar was slowly but surely drifting ahead. Now, in the year 1582, the spring equinox, which had been, I believe, on March the 21st, at the introduction of the Julian calendar, was actually occurring on March 11th. This was 10 days earlier than March 21st. So, let's say the day that had been fixed as a vernal equinox in the year 325. Now, Gregory, I think the 8th, made 2 changes. He shifted the calendar back by removing 10 days in October, making October the 5th of the year 1582 into October 15th to restore, let's just see, this spring equinox would be on the 21st of March. To ensure that the calendar would not shift again, Gregory implemented that every 128 years, let's just say, 1 day would be removed from the calendar. This would be over there. Now, the extra day normally appended to the month of February every 4 years over here would not be added to all century calendars except for those years which are multiples of 400. Now, it's very, very complicated over here. I'm actually using the Chabad website. They've got a library website over here. So the extra day normally appended to the month of February every 4 years. Yeah, so it should be clear that the old calendars, I think Jewish and Julian, drift away from the new Gregorian calendars at a rate of 3 days every 400 years. So let's just noting over that the Jewish sages were well aware that this calculation was not completely accurate, and it's actually saved over for most purposes. The Jewish calendar follows a more accurate calculations of Rabbi Ada Bar Ahava, who gives a length of the solar year as 365 days, 5 hours, 55 minutes, and 25.4 seconds. But the sages of the Gemara, Talmud, chose to calculate the length of a solar year as 3625.25 days. For the prayer for rain and Birkat HaChachama, the blessing of the sun, because it made, let's say, the calculations much simpler for the average person to perform, which is very interesting. And yeah, that's very, very important just to support. So what is the remedy? What's the solution that they do nowadays? So we know that the prayer for rain should be said 60 days after the beginning of halachic autumn. Since the date is based on calculation of Shmuel in the Talmud, and the Julian calendar, and not the Gregorian one, let's say it has to be translated, the dates, into Gregorian calendars. So another calculation, as mentioned earlier, in the Julian calendar, the 60th day after Tekufa is November the 22nd. Now, when we frame this in mind, that the Gregorian calendar, let's say, took away 10 days from the Julian one, we have to add them back. Thus, the 60th day would be in the year 1582 on December the 2nd. So additionally, I think every centurial, let's say, except for the years divided by 400, the Gregorian calendar loses one day, not drop from the older calendar. Thus, from the year 1700s and onwards, the 60th day of this period, Kufa, moved one day every 100 years. Now, in 1700, it was December the 3rd, 1800, December the 4th, 1900, December the 5th. And now, however, since the year 2000, divisible by 400, the Gregorian calendar did not drop the leap year. The day that is considered the 60th day of the Kufa did not move and remains December the 5th until the year 2100, which I think will move to December the 6th. Now, let's just say over here, the reason that we begin saying the prayer of December the 6th on in that year before a civil leap year is that although the Gregorian calendar adds a day to the month of February every 4 years for leap year, the extra day has essentially really been accumulated at that point in time at the start of the winter season. Therefore, every December preceding a leap year, the 60th day is going to be adjusted to December the 6th. Very, very interesting enough. And it has to be known also that since the halakhic day starts on the preceding night, that it's recited a prayer for rain during the Arvit, the Ma'ariv Amida prayer, on the night preceding the date given above. So, just calculating, until the year 2100, in a regular, we start saying the prayer for rain on the night of December the 4th, and in the year before a civil leap year on the night of December the 5th. And so there's a whole chulent. I think Shulchan Aruch Chaim 117 I recommend everyone to look at, but everyone have a peaceful winter season over here. Be'ez Hashem. Don't forget the tefillot in wherever you are in the world, whatever specific date you meant to say, and we're on the 7th of Cheshvan. Wishing you a fantastic day. Take care. I've got the umbrella already. Let's hope we get some good rain, friends, over here. Wishing you a fantastic day, and thanks for watching. Blessings here from Israel.